Top 10 mental illnesses on Dr. Phil. Nearly 1 in 5 people in the US have mental illnesses, and that translates to over 45 million Americans living with a mental disorder. Dr. Phil has had his fair share of such people on the show, and today we count down 10 people with mental diseases. Watch until the end to learn more about various disorders. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Let's get it going. 10. Shayla. Sandra took care of her daughter Shayla for about 4 years and spent over $100,000. She paid for her clothing, her groceries, and her living.
Paid for her clothing, her living, her groceries, her gas.
Sandra also paid for a hotel for her, but since it was too expensive, she bought a recreational vehicle for her daughter. Sheila tore everything apart in the RV from the ceiling to the furniture. However, Shayla said that her mother made up that stuff about her. According to Shayla, it was a fact that her mom had given her nothing.
It's a fact that my mother has given me nothing.
She also denied destroying the RV and said that she didn't touch things like that. Yikes. She took her kids to her parents' house because her son told her that everyone in school said that his mother was using drugs. Shayla said that she didn't even know what drugs are. Dr. Phil was convinced that they were dealing with a case of mental illness. Sometimes people develop mental illnesses because of the environments they were subjected to from an early age. 9. Tommy. Tommy was born a happy child, but when he was 5, his parents divorced because the mother was always drinking and had an affair with another man. Tommy claims that his mother never remembered anything she told him because she was still drunk when she was speaking to him. His dad was also verbally abusive and never stood up for him. He started developing emotional issues, and the parents immediately put him on medications. Since Tommy was 5, he was put on 50 different medications for emotional and mental illnesses.
Years old, I counted up at least 50 different medications,
some of which were dangerous and caused more harm than good. Things got depressingly hard for Tommy when he lost 3 of his best friends. He started drinking to forget all about the pain he was going through, and he also pitched a tent to live in next to where his best friend died. The good thing was, Tommy admitted that he had a mental and emotional problem, but he needed his parents to step up and help him get better. A couple of times, people on Dr. Phil's show have attributed their strange behaviors to religion and the power of God. 8. Brooke. Brooke never prayed, and she didn't even know the Bible, but somehow God started entering her body and she became a vessel. She said that she had become happier and calmer since she began to experience God, but the videos her husband took said otherwise. Brooke was always yelling and cursing and calling her husband names contrary to what God or Jesus would portray. She insisted that the videos should be taken and shown to Dr. Phil because he'd understand her.
Are you dead, man? Oh my God! Shut!
One time, Brooke's friend passed on, and after giving a speech, she saw a dragonfly and insisted that the dragonfly was her dead friend. Of course, nobody in the church believed her. Jack also faked passing out and let his wife think that God had knocked him down during an argument. Brooke thought that she could communicate with people who'd recently passed, and she could differentiate the voices from God's voice. She became devastated that her family thought she was delusional every time she tried to pass a message from God. Brooke needed to get help because the visions were costing her a happy marriage. Many people want the world to be a better place, but some of the things which go through people's minds are sometimes delusional. 7. DJ. Everyone around DJ thought that he had a mental disorder. Well, apart from DJ. He said that he was perfectly okay and people only understood him. He could do what Dr. Phil did, and he went to school to study but didn't finish the education. DJ went out in the streets every day to talk about how he changed the world through his fashion and his music. DJ produced 1 full album for Drake and Rihanna. We can't say which albums because we are yet to come across the music itself.
1 full album for Drake, for Kid Cudi, for Rihanna, and
he was also working on a scientific experiment worth millions, and he was planning on moving to other things like solar energy. DJ was also very comfortable walking across the streets without clothes on. Wow, so much for changing the world. He wanted the episode on Dr. Phil to be all about reuniting people on Earth and gave a lecture about how that could be possible. When the heat was too much for DJ's sister, she quietly and respectfully walked off the stage. Delusional isn't enough to describe this next guest on Dr. Phil. His urges were the most insane ever. 6. John. As a child, Jennifer always had nightmares that she'd clean up after her brother. He'd threaten her and her kid, and one day she relived the horror when she had to spend hours cleaning blood which her brother and a friend left after hurting themselves. John and Jennifer attributed the behavior to bad parenting, but their dad, in a statement, declared that he did his best to raise John and prepare him for the world. Jennifer wanted to believe that her brother was cured, but he still fought murderous urges every day. John made a list of behaviors which showed that his disorder was having the best of him. Apart from hurting his friend and his sister, John also chewed his forearm after shaving them and swallowed the small chunks of meat. Ew. John also admitted that he had an arrangement during which he met with his friend and ritually drank each other's blood and smeared it on their bodies. It was, according to him, auto-cannibalism, which is insane, and that's just one among the crazy things and dangerous urges John had over the years. 5. Amber. Amber's parents said that she was mentally unstable and she needed help. But Amber insisted that she was perfectly okay and only liked to have a bit of fun. Let's have a look at some of the things she called normal. Amber stabbed her leg because she thought it was numb. She also ripped the wings off of a pet bird and strangled it because she was mad at her dad. She left her husband and kids for a man at the bar. She was banned from local bars because of her crazy behavior. She drove under the influence without a license, and she worked 20 to 30 jobs in 8 years. Amber had an outrageous excuse for each of the claims and insisted that she was healthy. She said that she loved her children, yet she hadn't seen them for over a month. Amber left Dr. Phil and everyone else speechless when she started talking about how she could be a great actress and how she'd met someone named Prince. She switched from one emotion to another and proved beyond a reasonable doubt there was something terribly wrong with her. OCD is perhaps one of the most misunderstood mental disorders, and people living with OCD have a higher percentage of having other mental illnesses like bipolar, depression, and borderline personality disorder. 4. Courtney. Courtney's OCD behavior was triggered by spit, marks on the ground, shoes, and hotel rooms.
Marks on the ground, garbage can, people's shoes, hotel room.
Her biggest fear, however, was puke. She was terrified of vomit. On a good day, Courtney washed her hands 30 times, and on a bad day, the number would escalate to 200 times. She washed her hands until they started to bleed, and for some reason, the pain comforted her. Her fear of germs got worse when she was pregnant, and she cleaned things over 100 times. When Courtney's baby was born, she'd washed the feeding bottles countless times. Her choice of work greatly contradicted her fear because Courtney cleaned other people's houses for a living. She had a ritual when she got home which included taking off her shoes, her socks, her clothes, and placing paper towels on the floor. Then she'd shuffle to the bathroom and take 3 to 4 showers before proceeding to touch a towel or her son. Misophonia is slowly making its way to the list of mental disorders because it's definitely not healthy and sometimes results in other psychiatric disorders. 3. Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie had 2 pet pigs, which were crucial to her story, but for obvious reasons, they couldn't be flown to the show. We are aware that pigs make a lot of noise, especially when eating, which could be very annoying. Anne-Marie said that the noises the pigs made when eating didn't disturb her, but the sound her fiancé made when his jaws moved annoyed her. Wow. It didn't matter what he ate. Jimmy could be eating a sandwich, but the movement of the jaws alone would trigger anger for Anne-Marie. Jimmy packed all of his things and called off the engagement because he couldn't stand living with her, let alone making a lifetime commitment to her. Anne-Marie diagnosed herself with the neurological disorder after reading about it and watching a previous guest on Dr. Phil who had the same disease. Dr. Phil couldn't understand why Anne-Marie made allowances for the pigs, but couldn't do the same for the person she claimed to love. It's hard to convince someone that there's nothing wrong with them physically if they believe in their minds that there's something off. 2. Danielle. Danielle's mother claimed that her daughter was OCD and hypochondriac. Danielle used to be social, self-driven, and was actively involved in her children's life. Eventually, she became withdrawn and didn't actively participate in her children's lives. She also lost up to 60 pounds in 6 months, and every time her heart raced, she thought she'd die. Danielle brought all sorts of machines to check her blood pressure, blood sugar, pH level, her pulse rate, and her weight. Every time any of the tests didn't go as expected, she'd have panic attacks and rush to the doctors. She went to the ER at least twice a week, and most of the times went to see doctors unexpectedly. The scans and the tests always came out negative, but Danielle went to 35 different doctors because she always sought a different opinion if any of the doctors told her that she was okay. Kelly said that her daughter was also a hoarder, and piling all the stuff increased her anxiety disorder. Danielle believed in her mind that there was something physically wrong with her, but in reality, she had a mental disorder. The next guest on the show was described as a beautiful disaster by her mother because she couldn't control her. I saved the best for last, but first I have a quick challenge that takes only 5 seconds to complete. So if you can leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it. It really works. 1. Noel. Noel caused havoc for everyone in the house. She didn't follow any rules. She took drugs to the house and stole her mother's car. The house was always chaotic because Noel was either screaming or crying. The lack of peace caused her stepdad to pack his stuff and leave the house on 2 different occasions. He categorized Noel into 3: the angry monster, the sad teddy bear, and the trickster. Noel's disorder got worse when she started sleepwalking and harming herself because voices told her to do so. Her mom, Larissa, took her to a therapist, and the specialist recommended a mental facility for Noel, but things only got worse. The 14-year-old went to 3 psychiatrists, 5 different psychiatric facilities, and she'd also changed schools 5 times. Disciplining her never helped because Noel never showed any remorse or empathy for anything. She started hiding her drugs in her sister's room because her parents searched her room. Noel and her sister both believed that she wasn't the core problem because the parents weren't there for her when she needed a shoulder to cry on. Thanks for watching, and have an excellent day.